The Royal Interstellar Hangar was usually a calm and organized place, even though hundreds of workers moved through it every day. Humans, dragons, and many other allied species worked side by side, checking engines, polishing hulls, and preparing starships for long journeys. In the middle of all this activity worked Eli Marin, a human mechanic known for his bright ideas and friendly nature. Eli enjoyed the quiet hum of machines. He liked the smell of metal and soft engine oil, and he found comfort in the gentle pulse of the hangar lights overhead. To him, the hangar felt like a second home. He often said that machines were easy to understand if something was wrong. It made a clear noise, or a light blinked, or a message flashed on a panel. Machines never hid their feelings. People and dragons, however, were a different story. That morning seemed like any other. Eli had arrived early, carrying a warm drink and humming a song from Earth. He walked to Starship Bay 7, where a newly designed human-dragon hybrid ship rested on the platform. Its smooth silver wings reflected the ceiling lights, and its engines gave off a faint glow like sleeping fireflies. Eli stretched his arms and opened his toolkit, ready to begin his routine inspection. He did not know that within the next hour, something unusual would happen, something that would change how the Dragon Kingdom viewed humans. At the far end of the hangar, a group of dragon caretakers whispered among themselves. A baby star dragon had hatched only 2 days earlier, and today was the hatchling's first visit outside the nursery. Baby star dragons were curious by nature. They liked shiny things, gentle sounds, and moving lights. They also had very big emotions, which often came out through bright flashes of harmless energy. These flashes were not dangerous, but they could cause confusion if a baby dragon became too excited. The caretakers believed the hangar would be a safe place for a short visit. The baby dragon could look around, sniff the air, and get used to the idea of starships. Everything should have gone smoothly. But babies, no matter the species, rarely follow plans. Eli was under the starship, checking the coolant valve, when he heard a soft trill echo across the hangar. He paused and listened. The sound was delicate and musical, like tiny bells shaking inside a cloud. Eli smiled. He had heard recordings of baby dragons before. Their voices always carried a sense of wonder. "Oh, we have a little visitor today," he whispered to himself. He slid out from under the ship and stood, brushing dust off his uniform. When he looked toward the sound, he saw a small dragon no bigger than a shepherd dog standing near a toolbox. The baby had shimmering scales that changed color with every breath, shifting from pale lavender to soft blue. Its eyes were bright and round, full of curiosity and innocence. Tiny sparks of harmless, glitter-like energy drifted off its wings. The caretakers followed close behind. But the baby had noticed something more interesting. Eli's metallic tools, which reflected the hangar lights in little bursts. The dragon chirped again, amused by the reflections dancing on the floor. Eli laughed gently. "Well, hello there," he said in a calm voice. "You're quite a shiny little one." The baby dragon tilted its head, watching him with great interest. It took a few steps forward, sniffing the air. Its nose twitched, and it let out a soft puff of warm breath, which smelled faintly of sweet herbs. Dragon hatchlings often had gentle, pleasant scents. Everything seemed peaceful, but suddenly, the starship behind Eli activated one of its routine diagnostics. A panel lit up with flashing orange lights, and a series of sharp beeps filled the air. The ship wasn't in danger. It was only running a standard test. The sound, however, startled the baby dragon. The hatchling froze. Its wings trembled. Its eyes widened. The caretakers exchanged worried looks. They knew that baby dragons were very sensitive to new sounds. The sudden beeping seemed too loud and too fast for the small creature. The baby dragon let out a long, anxious cry. It was not loud, but it carried strong feelings: confusion, discomfort, and worry. The cry made a soft pulse of energy ripple across the ground. Nothing harmful happened, but the energy pulse caused the tools on a nearby table to shake, and a few colorful holograms to flicker. A gentle wind stirred through the hangar as the baby stepped backward, overwhelmed by the unfamiliar noise. Technicians in the area paused their work. Some looked concerned. Others whispered quietly, unsure what to do. They wanted to help, but they didn't have experience calming a baby dragon, especially one that had just felt its first moment of fear. Eli watched the scene with growing sympathy. He saw how the hatchling trembled, its tail curled close to its body. The poor creature seemed confused by its own emotions. The caretakers tried to soothe it with soft clicks and murmured dragon words, but the baby was too upset to listen. It kept glancing at the blinking orange panel, then back at the caretakers. Unsure of what was happening, Eli felt a tug in his heart. He remembered when he used to babysit his younger siblings back on Earth. They had acted the same way whenever a loud alarm or strange noise startled them. He had learned one thing very early. When a little one is scared, the world feels too big and too confusing. Sometimes, the solution is not a complex technique or a strict instruction. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is make the world soft again. As the dragon's anxious cries grew more frequent, Eli looked around the hangar for anything he could use to help. He did not want to interfere with the caretakers, but he also could not stand there and watch the baby struggle. Then he saw it his portable diagnostic vaporizer, a small device shaped like a sphere with an air nozzle. It was used to test airflow systems with harmless, scented vapor, and next to it sat a spare coolant mix that produced clear, soft vapor when activated. A simple idea came to him: bubbles. Back on Earth, when his siblings were upset, he used to blow bubbles to distract them. Something about floating spheres always brought peace. They drifted slowly, harmlessly, gently, like tiny worlds that asked for calm attention. Eli picked up the vaporizer and adjusted the settings. He attached the coolant canister, tightened the cap, and selected the bubble spiral mode, a mode he had accidentally discovered months ago when a test went very wrong, but ended very beautifully. The caretakers turned to him. "Human mechanic Eli," one of them said kindly, "please step back. The baby is distressed." "I know," Eli replied in a soft voice. "I just want to help." Before they could ask what he meant, Eli pressed the switch. A gentle hiss filled the air, then slowly, like a dream, large, shimmering bubbles drifted out of the nozzle. The bubbles were clear at the center, but their edges caught the hangar lights and reflected soft colors: pink, blue, gold, and pale green. They floated slowly, carried by the gentle air currents of the hangar. The baby dragon stopped crying mid-sound. Its tail uncurled. Its trembling wings grew still. A bubble drifted close to its nose. The hatchling stared at it, eyes wide with gentle wonder. The bubble reflected a tiny version of the dragon's own face. Sparkling softly, the caretakers blinked in surprise. Eli took a step forward, still holding the vaporizer. "It's okay," he whispered. "They're just bubbles." The baby dragon lifted one paw and tapped the nearest bubble. It popped with a soft shimmer, releasing a tiny breath of sweet-smelling vapor. The dragon's eyes lit up. It made a happy chirp, quiet, but full of fresh curiosity rather than fear. More bubbles floated across the hangar. Some drifted up toward the ceiling. Others glided past starship wings, leaving little trails of sparkle in the air. The bright, shifting colors seemed to calm everyone. Not just the hatchling. Technicians who had been nervous now relaxed. The caretakers exchanged relieved smiles, and the baby dragon, once trembling and overwhelmed, was now hopping gently from bubble to bubble, entranced by their movement. Eli felt warmth spread through him. He had only wanted to ease the hatchling's fear, but seeing the entire hangar glow with soft bubble light made the moment feel magical. As he watched the baby play, Eli had no idea that someone far above in the hidden observation gallery was watching everything with great interest. For now, he only saw the baby dragon enjoying a world that felt safe again, and he was happy to be the one who helped create that peace. If you want part 2 also, 1,300 words in simple English, third person, and non-violent. Just tell me. For a long moment, the hangar felt completely different from its usual busy atmosphere. The soft, colorful bubbles floating through the air made the large space feel calm and gentle, almost like a dream. Workers who had been stressed now smiled without realizing it. Even the loud machines seemed quieter, as if they, too, respected the calm that was spreading. But of all the reactions, the most heartwarming came from the baby dragon. A short time earlier, the hatchling had been trembling, overwhelmed by strange sounds and flashing lights. Now it was playing happily in a soft cloud of shimmering bubbles, chirping in delight. Eli stood a few steps away, still holding the vaporizer that created the bubbles. The device hummed lightly in his hand, releasing a slow stream of bright spheres. He carefully adjusted the settings to make the bubbles even softer and more colorful. The baby dragon squeaked when a particularly large bubble floated near its face. The bubble was almost the size of the dragon's head and reflected the hangar lights in bright waves of purple and green. The hatchling nudged the bubble with its nose, watching it wobble gently before popping in a small flash of glitter-like vapor. The sound of popping bubbles echoed softly across the hangar, creating a rhythm that made even the caretakers relax. One of the caretakers, a tall dragonkin with gentle golden eyes, approached Eli with a look of surprise and admiration. "What technique is this?" the caretaker asked, his voice full of curiosity. "I have never seen such a calming method used on a hatchling." Eli scratched the back of his head, suddenly feeling shy. "Oh, it's not really a technique," he admitted. "On Earth, we use bubbles to calm children when they're scared. I thought maybe it would work for the dragon baby too." The caretaker looked impressed. "This idea is very creative. And it works beautifully." Eli smiled, feeling embarrassed but happy. "Thank you. I didn't want the little one to feel scared. It looked so upset." The caretaker nodded. "Your kindness is appreciated. Hatchlings are very sensitive. They pick up emotions quickly. When they sense peace and joy, they respond just as quickly." Eli glanced at the dragon baby, who was now chasing 3 bubbles in a row with cheerful hops. "I'm glad it helped." As the caretaker left to reassure the other workers, Eli continued to adjust the vaporizer. A few technicians gathered near him, whispering quietly about how unusual the moment was. Most of them had worked around dragons for years, yet none of them had ever seen a calming method as simple and charming as bubble making. But Eli did not think he had done anything special. To him, the bubble idea felt natural, just a gentle trick he had used many times before. He did not realize that, in this interstellar kingdom, simple human creativity was rare and highly valued. Meanwhile, the baby dragon's curiosity grew. It followed the bubbles as they drifted higher, flapping its tiny wings. The wings were still developing and not strong enough for real flight, but the hatchling's small jumps allowed it to lift slightly off the ground for a moment at a time. Each time the dragon landed, it made a soft squeak, like it was cheering for itself. A few bubbles floated toward Eli. The hatchling followed, its small claws tapping lightly on the metal floor. When it reached Eli, it sniffed the air around him, then nudged his leg gently. Eli froze. He had never been this close to a baby dragon before. The hatchling looked up at him with wide, trusting eyes. "Hello again," Eli whispered softly. "Are you having fun?" The baby dragon let out a soft trill and tapped Eli's shoe with its nose. It then sat down in front of him, waiting as though expecting more bubbles. Eli laughed quietly. "You want more? All right, I can make more." He lifted the vaporizer and pressed the switch, creating another wave of bubbles. The baby dragon leaped with joy, chasing them around in small circles. Its tail wiggled, and its wings spread happily. Eli felt a warm glow in his chest. There was something incredibly touching about seeing a creature from another world find comfort in something as simple as bubbles. It made the huge galaxy feel smaller and more connected. From the far edge of the hangar, senior technicians watched the scene with confusion and fascination. "Is that human mechanic really calming a royal hatchling with bubbles?" one whispered. "It appears so," another replied. "And it seems to be working better than anything we have tried." "Remarkable," a third added. Eli was unaware of the attention he was receiving. He focused only on keeping the bubbles gentle and steady. He wanted to make sure the baby stayed relaxed. Suddenly, the baby dragon paused mid-hop. Its head tilted sharply, as if it sensed something new. It looked toward the far side of the hangar, Then back at Eli, the hatchling chirped a small, curious note, almost like a question. "What is it?" Eli asked quietly. The baby blinked. Then, instead of chasing the bubbles, it walked closer to Eli and sat by his feet, its wings curling slightly around itself. It seemed to want to stay near him. Eli did not understand why, but the gesture felt sweet. He gently reached down and let his fingers brush the top of the dragon's head. Its scales were warm and smooth, changing color in soft ripples under his touch. "You're a gentle one," he said kindly. The baby dragon leaned into his hand. Around them, the bubbles continued to drift, filling the hangar with soft colors. While Eli cared for the hatchling, something else was happening, something he did not notice at all. High above the hangar floor, there was an observation gallery hidden behind a clear shield. It allowed important visitors to quietly watch the hangar without interrupting the work below. Most workers forgot it existed because it blended so smoothly with the ceiling and walls. Today, however, the gallery was not empty. Inside stood Queen Serelith, the mother of the baby dragon. She had come silently to observe the caretaker's early training session with her newborn child. She wanted to see how her baby handled its first day in the outside world. She also wanted to confirm that humans and dragons continued working together peacefully in her kingdom. But what she witnessed surprised even her. Queen Serelith watched the human mechanic carefully as he produced shimmering bubbles. She watched how gently he moved, how calmly he spoke, and how respectfully he treated her hatchling. She noticed every detail, from the soft warmth in his eyes to the patience in his posture. Her attendants stood behind her, whispering in amazement. "That human. He soothes the hatchling with simple creativity," one murmured. "And the hatchling trusts him," another added. Queen Serelith did not respond. She simply watched. Her long, elegant tail curled around her feet as she observed how the baby dragon played happily near Eli, showing no fear. The queen found the moment both touching and eye-opening. Humans were known for their bold inventions and fast learning. But kindness, this quiet, natural kindness that Eli displayed, was something she had rarely seen, expressed so effortlessly. Back on the hangar floor, Eli still had no idea that someone of great power was watching him. He continued creating bubbles, smiling whenever the baby dragon squeaked or hopped in excitement. He had no other goal except to help a small creature feel safe again. When the vaporizer released a large cluster of bubbles, the baby dragon spun in a little circle with joy. A soft laugh rose from several workers nearby. The hangar felt lighter than it had in a long time. Eli wiped a small drop of coolant from his sleeve and said, "There you go, little one. See? Everything's okay." The baby dragon chirped in agreement. Far above, Queen Serelith felt her heart soften. She quietly spoke to her attendants. "Make note of this human. I wish to meet him." But Eli continued working, unaware that his gentle act had made an impression on the queen herself. For now, he only saw a happy baby dragon and a hangar full of bright bubbles. The hangar continued to shimmer with calm light as bubbles drifted across the air like tiny floating moons. Workers moved more slowly now, not out of fear but because they did not want to disturb the peaceful moment created by the human mechanic and the baby dragon. Something magical filled the space, something gentle and rare. And high above, in the quiet shadows of the observation gallery, Queen Serelith watched everything with careful eyes. The queen was a tall, graceful dragon with flowing silver scales that glowed softly like moonlight on calm water. Her wings folded neatly behind her, and a crown-shaped crest rested above her eyes. She looked strong and wise, yet her expression softened whenever she saw her baby hatchling below. This was the first time her child had visited the hangar. She had expected challenges. Of course, new sounds, new sights, new smells. Even adult dragons sometimes found the large machines confusing, but she had not expected her child to become so upset, and she certainly had not expected a human mechanic to be the one who soothed him. Her attendants stood behind her, silent until she gave them a sign to speak. They, too, were watching the scene below with fascination. "Your Majesty," whispered one of them gently, "the hatchling appears very calm now." Another nodded. "Yes. Far calmer than when we arrived." The human seems to understand him in a surprising way. The queen listened but did not reply. Her golden eyes stayed fixed on Eli, who was kneeling beside the baby dragon. As more bubbles floated upward, she noticed small details: how Eli always moved slowly so he wouldn't startle the hatchling, how he spoke softly, even when the creature clearly couldn't understand his words, how he made sure the bubbles were gentle and not too bright. Every movement showed patience. Every action showed care. Every expression on his face showed warmth. It reminded the queen of something she valued deeply: kindness, without expectation. Most beings showed respect to a royal hatchling because of its status. But Eli did not even know who the baby's mother was. He simply wanted to help. The queen turned slightly toward her attendants and whispered, "Tell me more about this human." The first attendant bowed. "His name is Eli Marin, Your Majesty. He has been working in the hybrid starship division for 1 year. He is known for creativity, although some say he is too humble to notice his own cleverness." Another attendant added, "He often volunteers for extra tasks. He never complains. Many workers say he brings a friendly spirit to the hangar." Queen Seralith watched him again. Eli was laughing softly as the hatchling chased a bubble that floated close to his ear. The laughter was gentle, not loud or distracting, but sincere enough to echo faintly through the large hall. The queen closed her eyes for a moment. Humans are quite different from dragons, she thought. Yet sometimes their differences reveal strengths we forget to see. Below, the hatchling made a happy trill and bumped its small head against Eli's leg. Eli froze, then slowly reached down and stroked the top of its head. The dragon baby leaned into the touch. One of the attendants whispered, amazed, "The hatchling never allows strangers to touch him." Not even the other caretakers tried that today. Queen Seralith tilted her head slightly. "It seems the child senses safety." "Indeed, Your Majesty." The queen said nothing more. She simply watched. A quiet kingdom expectation. Dragons had always been proud and noble creatures. They were respected across the galaxy for their wisdom and long memories. But even dragons knew there were limits to their understanding. Baby hatchlings, for example, were unpredictable. They needed comfort, not just guidance. The queen had expected the caretakers to handle the situation. She trusted them, and they had done their best. But the human mechanics approach was unexpected. She had never seen bubbles used this way, never seen something simple create such a strong emotional change. Humans were known for making tools, machines, devices. But this was not just a tool. It was an idea, a feeling made into a floating shape. As she watched bubbles drift across the air, she wondered how such a basic thing could have such a calming effect. Perhaps simplicity carries its own power, she thought. Eli's quiet thoughts. Down on the hangar floor, Eli still had no idea he had an audience beyond the caretakers and workers. His focus remained entirely on the baby dragon. His hands were a little tired from holding the vaporizer, but he did not mind. Seeing the hatchling happy filled him with a warm sense of joy. He felt like he had helped a friend. He thought about how different dragons were from humans: tall, proud, shining like living statues of crystal and starlight. Yet the baby dragon in front of him was just a small creature learning about the world, no different from any young life trying to understand its surroundings. Eli smiled softly as the baby nudged another bubble with its tiny snout. "I'm glad you like them," he whispered. "I can make more if you want." The baby chirped. Eli chuckled. "I'll take that as a yes." He adjusted the vaporizer again, making the bubbles larger and slower so the dragon could watch them float without rushing. Around them, workers continued observing, whispering quietly about how unusual and heartwarming the scene was. The queen's growing curiosity. Queen Seralith leaned closer to the glass barrier between the gallery and the hangar. She examined Eli's face, trying to understand what made him different from so many others. She noticed kindness in his eyes. Not the kind that expected reward or praise. The kind that simply existed. Steady and natural. She admired such qualities deeply. A kingdom grew strong not only through power and intelligence, but also through compassion. The queen finally spoke again, her voice soft but clear. "This human has a gentle heart." Her attendants nodded, surprised by how deeply the queen seemed affected. "It is rare," she continued, "to see someone offer comfort to another's child with such natural warmth. Even rarer when they do not know they are being watched." The attendants exchanged looks. The queen's expression softened further. "I wish to understand him better. But Your Majesty," one attendant said carefully, "Eli Marin does not know you are observing. Should we announce your presence soon?" Queen Seralith looked down at her peacefully playing hatchling. "Not yet," she said. "Let the child enjoy this moment a little longer." She felt something else as she watched, a quiet appreciation for human creativity. This idea of bubbles reminded her of soft star clouds floating through space. It brought beauty to the hangar, turning a place of machines into a place of wonder. Her baby certainly seemed to think so. A shared moment between species. As the bubbles floated, the baby dragon suddenly flopped onto its side, rolling gently across the floor. It was tired from excitement, but happy. Eli laughed warmly and sat down beside it, switching off the vaporizer to give the hatchling a moment to rest. "You did great," he said softly. "You're very brave for trying something new today." The baby puffed out a tiny cloud of sweet-smelling vapor in response. Eli leaned back on his hands, looking around the hangar. He felt proud of himself, not in a loud way, but in a quiet, satisfied way. Helping others had always made him feel complete, whether those others were human or dragon. He did not know that the queen above felt the same sense of completeness watching him. For a moment, a silent connection seemed to form between the queen, her child, and the human mechanic, though only two of them were aware of it. A decision forms. Queen Seralith finally stepped back from the glass. "Prepare a formal introduction," she told her attendants softly. "When the moment is peaceful, I wish to speak to him." The attendants bowed. "Yes, Your Majesty. But not now," added the queen. "Let the child rest, and trust him a little longer. Today, I have seen something rare." She looked once more at Eli. "He helped without any command. He cared without expectation. This is something worth understanding." With that, the queen turned and left the gallery, her flowing tail brushing lightly against the smooth floor. Eli remained below, unaware that his life was about to change. He could only see the hatchling yawning softly beside him, its eyes half closed as bubbles continued drifting gently above them like floating stars. And in that simple moment, a new bridge between humans and dragons began to form quietly, honestly, beautifully. The hangar was calmer than it had been in many hours. The soft glow from the bubbles had slowly faded, leaving a peaceful stillness behind. Workers moved gently, speaking in low voices so they wouldn't disturb the resting baby dragon. Even the machines seemed quieter, as if they respected the calm moment created by Eli and the hatchling. The baby dragon lay curled beside Eli, its tiny chest rising and falling in steady breaths. Its wings were folded neatly, its tail wrapped around its body like a warm blanket. Every now and then, the hatchling let out a small content sound, as if dreaming of floating bubbles. Eli sat cross-legged on the floor, watching the baby with a gentle smile. He felt proud and relieved. The earlier crisis felt like a distant memory now. The vaporizer rested beside him, its surface cool and silent after the long bubble-making session. A few caretakers approached quietly. "You did something special today," one said softly. Eli looked up, surprised. "I only tried to help. Anyone would have done the same." The caretaker shook his head with a smile. "Not anyone would think of using bubbles. It was a clever idea, and it worked better than anything we expected." Eli felt his face warm with embarrassment. Compliments always made him shy. "Well, I'm just glad the little one is fine." "He is more than fine," another caretaker said. "He is trusting, calm, and happy. That is rare for a hatchling on his first big outing." 8. Eli looked at the sleeping baby and felt a warm glow in his chest. "He's just a little guy. He deserves to feel safe." The caretakers exchanged a look. They all knew something Eli did not. Soon, someone important was coming. They stepped back silently as the main entrance doors to the hangar opened with a soft chime. A hush fell across the room. Everyone stood straighter. Conversations stopped. Tools were set down quietly. Eli looked around, confused. "What's happening?" No one answered at first. Their eyes were fixed on the far end of the hangar, where a group of dragon attendants entered in graceful formation. Their robes shimmered with gentle star patterns, and their footsteps echoed softly on the polished floor. Eli blinked. He had never seen such formal attendants in the hangar before. Then he noticed the figure walking in front of them, tall, elegant, and glowing with a silver light that seemed almost unreal. It was Queen Seralith, the mother of the baby dragon. Eli's breath caught in his throat. He had seen the queen once on a broadcast message. Never in his life had he expected to stand in the same room as her. She was larger than he remembered, but her presence felt oddly gentle, like moonlight reflected on a calm river. Her eyes, golden and wise, moved slowly across the hangar before stopping on Eli, and on the hatchling curled beside him. Eli scrambled to stand, almost tripping over his own feet. He bowed awkwardly, unsure of the proper way to greet a dragon queen. "Your Majesty," he stammered. The queen approached with long, smooth steps. Her silver scales shimmered softly with each movement. Workers bowed deeply as she passed, but her focus stayed on Eli and the baby dragon. When she reached him, she stopped just a few steps away. Eli swallowed nervously. He had never felt so small or so noticed in his entire life. The queen looked at her sleeping child, then at Eli, and spoke in a calm, warm voice. "You have done a great kindness for my child today." Eli blinked, speechless. I was only trying to help. I didn't know. I didn't realize he was the prince?" The queen finished gently. "Yes. You did not know. That is what makes your actions even more meaningful." Eli felt a nervous flutter in his stomach. He glanced at the baby, who was still asleep, completely unaware of the royal moment happening beside him. The queen lowered her head slightly, bringing her golden eyes closer to Eli's level. She studied him with a mix of curiosity and appreciation. "My attendants informed me about a disturbance," she said. "I came to observe quietly. What I saw was unexpected." Eli shifted his weight, unsure what to say. "I just wanted him to feel better." He looked scared. "And you helped him," the queen replied. "Not with commands, not with pressure, but with creativity and calm." She glanced at the vaporizer beside Eli. "With bubbles?" she added, a soft smile in her voice. Eli's face turned pink. "It's something I used to do for my siblings. I didn't know if it would work for a dragon baby." "It worked beautifully," the queen said. Around them, workers watched in awe. No one dared to move or speak. Everyone knew they were witnessing something rare, a human directly praised by the queen of the dragons. Queen Seralith looked at her sleeping hatchling again. She gazed at him with deep affection before turning her attention back to Eli. "You have shown my child kindness," she said softly. "And you have shown me something precious as well." Eli frowned slightly, confused. "What do you mean?" The queen's eyes softened even further. "You have shown me that humans carry a gentle strength," she said. "Your hearts are capable of comfort in ways we sometimes forget to understand." Eli felt something warm spread across his chest. He had always believed kindness mattered, but hearing it from a queen, especially a dragon queen, felt almost unreal. Thank you, Your Majesty," he finally managed. "I'm honored. Truly, I'm honored." The queen gave a slow nod. "Tell me, Eli Marin, did you not fear approaching my child during his distress?" Eli shook his head honestly. "No. He wasn't dangerous. He was just confused and scared. Anyone can feel that way." The queen paused, her expression thoughtful. "That is a rare answer," she said. Just then, the baby dragon stirred. It lifted its head sleepily, blinking in confusion. When it saw Eli, it chirped softly and scooted closer to him. Then it noticed the queen. The hatchling's eyes brightened, and it made a joyful sound. The queen lowered her head, touching her nose gently to her child's forehead. "My little one," she whispered. The baby dragon rubbed its head against her snout, but after a moment, it turned back toward Eli and stretched its neck in his direction. Eli hesitated, unsure if it was proper to touch a royal hatchling in front of its mother. The queen noticed his uncertainty and smiled softly. "He wishes for you to greet him," she said. "You have earned his trust." Carefully, Eli reached out and touched the hatchling's head. The baby closed its eyes with a peaceful sound, enjoying the gentle contact. A wave of soft murmurs went through the hangar. Even the caretakers looked amazed. It was rare for a hatchling to bond so quickly with anyone outside the royal family. Queen Seralith watched with deep emotion. "You have made a special connection with him," she said. "A bond that may last far into the future." Eli looked down at the baby, who was cuddling against his leg, and he smiled shyly. "He's very sweet. I'm happy I could help him." The queen straightened her posture, her regal presence filling the hangar with quiet authority. "I wish to honor what you have done today," she announced. Eli's heart skipped. "Honor? Me? But I didn't." "You acted with heart," the queen said firmly. "That is worthy of recognition." She turned to her attendants. "Prepare an official record of today's event, and add one more detail." The attendants bowed. "Yes, Your Majesty." The queen looked back at Eli with warm amusement. "Record that the bubble protocol shall be included in official hatchling care guidelines." Eli almost laughed in surprise. "The bubble protocol?" "Indeed," the queen said with a graceful nod. "If it brings peace to hatchlings, then it shall be used." Workers around the hangar smiled. Some even suppressed quiet laughter. The idea of a bubble protocol becoming official royal practice felt delightful. Eli, shy but honored, bowed again. "Thank you, Your Majesty." "I'm grateful." The queen gave a final, warm glance at him. "Eli Marin," she said softly, "today, you reminded us that kindness is a strength. Humans and dragons grow closer because of actions like yours." Then, with elegant steps, she turned and walked toward the exit, her attendants following in silent formation. The hatchling chirped, watching her leave, then curled back beside Eli, as if feeling completely safe. Eli sat again, gently brushing the baby dragon's scales. He didn't feel like a hero. He didn't feel special. He simply felt happy that he had helped someone very small, very bright, and now very close to his heart. And high in the kingdom, the queen carried newfound respect for humanity, all because of one mechanic, one baby dragon, and one simple idea made of shimmering bubbles.